several years I worked with youth in communities on the Cape Flats, from the gang-infested area of Manenberg to Samora Machel, which welcomed me with a smash-and-grab incident. I also worked in Nova Park and Athlone. Now each community had its own set of challenges, each had that moment when I had to smile, while others struggled to see the sunlight in their day. Now straight out of school I took a gap year and worked for a youth organisation providing a service for the Western Cape Education Department, doing peer education and life skills in several high schools in the province. Now after 3 months of training I was sent to Manenberg in Samora Machel as a facilitator. My job was to bring a session to learners in grades 8 to 11 in a fun and interactive manner. The first class was a challenge, the second wasn't easy, and the third saw myself and partner being rushed to the principal's office for safety as gunfire between rival gangs ensued. It was scary, but I knew that what I was entrusted to do at the schools was more than just a job. I needed to provide some light in a community rocked by social injustice and darkness. But how was I going to do this? Now, after more training sessions, we were sent back to the schools after gang violence started dying down. And in a session on self-esteem, I spoke about how where we find ourselves shouldn't define where we dream of being. But the learners weren't moved by this. How were they supposed to become the doctors, nurses, lawyers, entrepreneurs, journalists and scientists they dreamed of being if they were surrounded by such negativity in their communities? Firstly, we needed to affirm that we are truly there for them, as well as tell them that we care about them. That is something which they don't often hear. Now, many of these children come from broken homes. The father is in prison, the mother on drugs, and they are left in the care of their drunken grandmothers, who will then force them to go and buy alcohol at the local shebeen and even skip school to work so that they can buy the grandmother alcoholic beverages. Now in this session on self-esteem, we told the learners a story about a frog who was always told he couldn't, but in the end he did. He succeeded over the noise of others trying to drag him down because he was deaf to negativity. We also needed to tell the youth about others who too grew up in communities like theirs but didn't let their surroundings determine their future. It was difficult, but an interesting session nonetheless. It was great to finally have broken through. It was great to hear the dreams of these teens. Some wanted to play soccer for the country. Others saw a career path in politics, while others wanted to study IT, and others wanted to become teachers and lawyers and pharmacists, while others were still undecided. That's little bit of light in that session that day wasn't because we brought it to them. It was because we showed them that they held the light, but it couldn't be seen because it was hidden too far away. Now, as we celebrate human rights, we celebrated human rights this March, and we continue to celebrate human rights throughout the year. It is not a basic right to receive love, to be safe, and to study and learn in a safe place. Is that not a basic human right? A few days after my session with the learners, I had learned that one of my students had been shot and killed in a gang crossfire while walking back from school. At my other school, a few blocks away in Samora Machel, I witnessed a smash and grab. A guy posed as a beggar walked around to the left side of the car in front of me and threw a stone into the passenger side window. He then grabbed the woman's bag and ran in between the hole in the fence and wasn't seen again. Now, the woman in the car may have ignored the pleas from government to keep handbags and other valuables out of public eye, but she honestly didn't deserve such trauma. I thought to myself of all the things that could have been in that bag: a credit card, a bank card's ID, cell phone, house keys, personal belongings and personal photos, bank statements, money. I even thought for a moment that she could have been someone who had earned her month's salary in cash for doing some odds and ends, and the money was in that bag. Is not that women's right and the right of everyone else in our country to travel safely? I don't know who the woman was, but she could have been someone working in the community, trying to build it up and work toward its betterment. Would this perhaps deter her from doing so? Now, at another school in Nova Park, the school fence was stolen and gangsters had their daily meet-up on the school premises. My office was very near to the back of the school, and each day as I sat preparing for a session, the smell of smoke would enter the office. One day, I caught a boy smoking weed and had it reported. The boy, being very involved in a gang, gave me a death threat. He said, "Ek sal jou doodmaak," which is, "I will kill you," he told me. Now later on that day, he stood up as he saw me walking in the corridors and threatened me again, saying that he will cut my neck with a knife and I should wait for him after school. Now the threat was concerning. I informed the principal of it, and I was then locked in a place of safety and had to meet with the boy and the principal in the principal's office. He was asked about the death threat, and he told the principal that he was just joking. Now later on that day, he and his friends approached me and told me that now I will see. I then called my office and was removed from the school before the end of day and placed somewhere else. A few weeks later, I had learned that the boy was involved in a gang fight at the school and had killed a fellow learner. Now, months later, the situation was brought up again in a meeting with my manager, and I was told that I didn't handle it well enough. It was then decided that the organization and myself split ways. I was fired. So I was fired for standing up for myself and being concerned with a boy involved in a gang giving me a death threat. I was young back then, but perhaps I didn't handle the situation as I should have. But if I was faced with the same situation right now, I would have probably handled it the same. I would have reported it. It is my right to be safe and to work in safety. Now, as we celebrate human rights and as we celebrate the rights we now have as South Africans, I remember those many youth living in gang-ridden areas. I remember the people from the communities and surroundings where I worked for many years who live in poverty. The struggle is real as they scratch around for loose change each day so that they can buy a half a loaf of bread. I remember those people living in informal settlements, those sleeping on the streets and those struggling to find a job, those who are lonely, who yearn to be loved, and those who are abused and face a harsh reality and not knowing if they will still be alive tomorrow. Now, as we commemorate human rights, let us also call to mind that not so many people have the luxury of safety, security, love, housing and sanitation and education as we do. What are you willing to do to help our beloved South Africa get closer to where we are supposed to be? Will we share our wealth, or will that extra slice of bread just end up in the dustbin again?
For once in my life, it's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids from the street, but not enough to